This is the news on top of the hour.
Live from our studio in Georgetown.
Kaieteur Radio, 99.1 FM.
Good evening. Welcome to this evening's newscast on Kaieteur Radio. Kevin Smith here. Let's get to the news in detail. The Environmental Protection Agency yesterday came out in defense of the modifications it made to the Liza Phase 1 and Payara environmental permits over the past few months, as it insisted that the amendments are in keeping with international best practices. The modifications were severely criticized this week by former EPA head Dr. Vincent Adams. He said the changes made to the permits have essentially weakened the standards ExxonMobil should be made to comply with. In fact, Dr. Adams had chided the EPA for inserting provisions into the Liza and Payara permits which allow ExxonMobil to flare gas for 60 days. Dr. Adams had pointed to the ridiculous nature of this allowance, as he said in the USA, ExxonMobil's home country, the standard allowance for flaring during startup of operations is 48 hours. But in its missive to the press, the EPA defended the 60-day provision, as it said international benchmarking shows that typical acceptable startup period averages 90 days. The EPA therefore concluded that the 60-day requirement is much more stringent, as it is well below the average international benchmark. In other news, Indian Oil Corporation Limited, a state-owned refinery, has just purchased its first 1 million barrels of Guyana's light sweet crude oil from the Liza project. According to international news entity Reuters, the shipment will serve the purpose of a trial cargo, as the governments of India and Guyana attempt to negotiate an oil supply contract. An oil supply contract for state refineries has long-reaching implications, as India is the world's third biggest oil importer and consumer. It also imports over 80% of the oil it consumes. And now let's tell you, since Guyana recorded its first COVID-19 case back in March 2020, some 1,567 children were victims of the disease. This is according to the Minister of Health, Dr. Frank Anthony. Dr. Anthony yesterday said this is a worrying trend in the hospitals, since 4 children are currently hospitalized with a more severe form of the virus. Even though he did not disclose the current number of positive cases among children, he lamented that those hospitalized are closely being monitored. Just recently, the minister stated that health authorities have seen a spike in COVID-19 hospitalization, with some 87 persons being hospitalized daily. It was revealed during an interview that children as young as 1 month are contracting the severe form of the disease. And now let's tell you, the man who reportedly sat and waited on the police to arrest him after he allegedly chopped his stepson on Tuesday made his first court appearance and was placed on $400,000 bail. The defendant, Delwyn Lewis of Wright's Lust East Coast Demerara, appeared before Magistrate Dylan Bess in the Georgetown Magistrates Courts. He was not required to plead to the indictable charge, which alleges that on June 25th he wounded Michael Fernandez with the intent to commit murder. Magistrate Bess granted bail to Lewis, and the matter was adjourned to September 13, 2021. An argument had ensued between the two men, during which Fernandez picked up a piece of wood and attempted to hit Lewis. Lewis then picked up a cutlass and dealt his stepson several chops about his body. And moving on, a 25-year-old man is now in custody after 88 grams of cannabis was found on his premises during a raid that was carried out by a party of policemen in Wismar, Linden, on Thursday afternoon. It is alleged that the suspect, after arriving at the station, pulled out a sum of money from his pocket and tried to bribe the police officers. We understand that the search was conducted in the suspect's bedroom, and a bag was discovered that contained 26 transparent Ziploc bags with suspected cannabis weighing 88 grams. After being arrested and taken to the Mackenzie police station, the man tried to bribe the officers with $33,900 for his release, while pleading that he has a 4-year-old daughter and cannot afford to go to jail. Investigations and charges are still pending. Meanwhile, Joshua Mentor, a 21-year-old aviation officer, was on Friday slapped with several charges after appearing in court for causing death by dangerous driving. Mentor was taken into custody last Monday after the motorcycle he was riding crashed into a pile of stone on Mandela Avenue and caused the death of his 20-year-old best friend Kareem Powley. Mentor was placed on $150,000 bail with no objection. He was required to lodge his passport and asked to report at the Bergdam police station every other Monday. He is expected to make his next court appearance on July 6th. Mentor was also slapped with several other charges. In the traffic court, he was charged with $25,000 for being an unlicensed driver, $20,000 for breach of insurance, and $10,000 for having an uncertified motor vehicle. He pleaded not guilty to the charges. Mentor is expected to return on July 22nd regarding these matters. And that's the news of the moment. Remember to get the full details of these stories, pick up a copy of the Kaieteur News. And don't forget, you can catch us on the MyTuner app as well as the Radio Garden app.